The GoPro Hero 7 was released back in 2018. Now, at the time, it cost around $400. Nowadays, you can find it used for about $170. The DJI Osmo Pocket was also released back in 2018. Now, at the time, it cost $350, but you can currently find it used for around $150. With both of these cameras being kind of similarly spec'd and similarly priced, it kind of begs the question, which one is better? Well, both cameras have a small 1/2.3-inch size sensor. Both cameras do 4K video up to 60 frames per second, and both cameras have genuinely good image stabilization. In terms of image quality, both are doing a really good job with these small sensors, though I would kind of lean towards the Osmo Pocket. I'd say the Osmo Pocket, for whatever reason, just has a bit more of a mature look to it. It feels more like a quote-quote real camera, whereas the GoPro feels more like an action camera. In terms of image stabilization, both are genuinely good at stabilizing footage, although they're obviously doing it in two very different ways. I mean, you've got the GoPro Hero 7, which is using an electronic image stabilization system, and you've got the DJI Osmo Pocket, which is literally just a gimbal. It comes down to personal preference, but really, not going to notice a big difference on either one. Both genuinely look good at what they do. Now, in terms of overall versatility, the GoPro wins, and it wins by a long shot. I mean, the GoPro is basically a small, indestructible cube that can kind of go anywhere and do anything, and whereas the Osmo Pocket's more of a kind of frilly, delicate gimbal that needs to be well cared for. They're two very different cameras in that sense. I mean, you're not going to just strap the Osmo Pocket to the bottom of your skateboard or to the hood of your car. It's basically just designed to be handheld, and that's about it. It's made for walking around, filming yourself, filming the scene, but it's not meant for being particularly adventurous. Whereas the GoPro, on the other hand, GoPro can go anywhere and do anything. You know, and that's kind of the irony, which is Osmo Pocket has the word pocket right in the name, but it's kind of not that pocketable. I mean, it's a really delicate gimbal that you have to be careful with. You can't just shove this into your pocket and forget about it the way that you would with a GoPro. GoPro, on the other hand, you know, the way it's built, it's designed to just kind of withstand anything that you can throw at it. Now, in terms of slow motion, I've got to give it to the GoPro just 100%. While both of these cameras do 4K 60, the GoPro gives you 1080p all the way up to 240 frames per second, whereas Osmo Pocket, it technically gives you 1080, 120, but it's buried in a slow motion mode, meaning you don't have access to that file. You can't just select 1080p, 120 frames per second the way you would on the GoPro. With the Osmo Pocket, it just gives you that slow motion feature, which basically takes that 120 frames per second, slows it down in camera, and gives it to you baked into a 30 frames per second file. That's not really acceptable. See, I filmed these videos in a 24 frames per second timeline, which means anything at 60 frames per second gets played back at 40%, anything at 120 frames per second gets played back at 20%, and anything at 240 frames per second gets played back at 10%. The problem with the Osmo Pocket is it gives you that slow motion in a 30 frames per second file that completely f***s up the math. I mean, it's usable, you can definitely use it, but it's nowhere near as clean and smooth as it would look if you just had access to the actual 120 frames per second file itself. I mean, overall, both cameras are great cameras. Like, neither one is quote-quote bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just the thing that I've noticed in filming this video is there's a recurring theme, and it's the fact that the GoPro is just way more versatile. You're just a lot more limited with the Osmo Pocket. The Osmo Pocket does a great job at what it does, but it's like, it's just not the go anywhere, do anything camera that the GoPro is. You know, so that's the thing. I think even though both cameras have similar specs and both cameras are at a similar price point, I think for the average user, the GoPro's probably going to be a lot more versatile, and they're probably going to get a lot more use out of it. Whereas with the Osmo Pocket, it's great at what it does, but it's more of a niche product. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.